So I'm getting a geometry lesson, trying to figure this thing out. I was putting both bushings on and trying to keep this centered. And that's tough because it's really just an eyeball, because there's really, a surface to a surface. Where am I lining it up off of? So I was basically just going off the gap in the between the seal and that shoulder, and I would get it centered and then start turning it in, and it'd go shift from one side to the other, just back. One side it ended up, this has got the gap, bigger gap, then this one got the bigger gap. I just tried that probably at least a dozen times. So what I ended up, just starting to think about what it is, once I realized, so I found that there's basically one thread showing on either side when it's even, when this is centered. And so I just put this bushing on and ran it up almost to the shoulder where it's going to end up being. And then, just making sure this stays. If the shaft stays and doesn't turn, then it's just threading into the control arm, and it's not going to change the center on the shaft. And that was my theory. That's, of course, what happens. I think that part's physics. The other part's geometry. I don't know. Anyway, then now I'm going to put this bushing on and run it up to the shoulder, and everything should remain centered. So I am having to use the original bumper, which is fairly petrified. It'll be a little less jolting maybe than metal to metal, but this was the one I ordered because it was shaped like it. Pretty close on the size, just not a little bit smaller. Clearly the shaft is not going to work because the shaft is holding on the end of the ball joint. So that was it, and it was a different shaft in the picture, so I don't know what the deal is, if they sent me the wrong one or what. It also didn't have this nub on it. They had another one that I saw that was this in the picture. Short shaft, had this nub on it, and I got a different one because it had a longer shaft and everything. I'm sure it wasn't the right one either, but these are just generic classic model GM bump stoppers. So just took a shot because you can't find these original ones. So blessedly we have it anyway. So got something there. That's, I guess, the main thing, holding on the ball joint. But well, here's this. We can make out in the hole that bolt's 3/8, a quarter plus inches away from getting in there. And then when you look up under there, that's where the other end of the torsion bar mounts. So there is no what you would call wiggle room. It just doesn't fit. So the overall length of the shaft is correct. This is identical. The bolt pattern is correct. But where we're missing is, see in the length of this part of the shaft is longer here than it is on that one. And considering we have the constraint of the other end of the torsion bar, we're not going anywhere with this. Didn't realize we'd be dealing with that. So after all that disappointment, I got to examining this further. I was actually talking to the support guys, and they were trying to help me figure it out. I actually did end up figuring it out on my own. So this is how it is currently. And little did I know, you can just do that and it changes the whole thing. If you note that this end is longer, has a longer non-threaded end on it than that is. Got it a little better that way. This is short. This is long. There's a better view of it. So, approximate hole center from there to there. And you see how we're about that 3/8 that I'm missing. That distance to the hole. So, feel kind of dumb, but at the same time, feeling pretty happy. Happy that I'm dumb. I don't know. But I get to take this off now and flip it around and put her back in there. And I think she's going to fit this time. So I covered it up because got a lot of bare metal. There it is. Yep, I got the spindle on and got the torsion bar hooked up on the other end. Is nowhere near the amount of threads that it needs to be. It's not adjusted where it's going to be. But the book says it needs to be on the ground. Probably wants to have an engine and a body on it too before you do a final adjustment. So this was sufficient. And I just kind of ran the castles up on the ball joints for now. Nowhere near torqued. I didn't even put a wrench on it. Just hand tightened it just to make sure it kind of looks like this one without all the grease and crud on it. And then I went ahead and pulled off the drum so I can get an idea what the brakes look like. They're actually a lot less complex than a lot of them that I've seen. So, but this is one of the reasons, or the main reason, that I left this side intact was so I can reference this and putting it back together. So that's where we're at. Well, I would have swore that I had found brake pads and a brake cylinder at O'Reilly's, but they don't have it. So that's what I'd get for swearing, I guess. But I'm gonna have to order them, and I don't have that at the moment. But I did have this already ordered, and this is the tie rod ends. So we'll check this out. See what we got here. Kinda, what do we got going on? Okay. That looks pretty good. Heck yeah. I was hoping these steering parts would be easier. They should be a little more common to all the trucks in this era. That's usually good on them, drop them on the concrete like that. By golly. I think we got them. Very good. Well, it's definitely good on a knife to drop them on the concrete. All right, so I got that. And then I got my hub here is all cleaned up. I think I'm going to paint this part of it here. But I'm not sure, did I want to, mask this off and then just around here. And I'm thinking, might as well do it. This is inside the drum. But, it's definitely going to be exposed, and that's bare metal. So I'm taking flash rust as soon as I take it out the door of the shop. If I don't do something that's pretty greasy, so I have to degrease all of that. But that's pretty much it. And then I'd cleaned up these bearings pretty good already. So I got to grease them, which is going to be kind of difficult being that they're in here to pack them. I don't know. I can do it. I can just get a gun and shoot it in there, really. And then this whole cavity has to get filled with grease. Fill that whole thing up with grease. And that's ready to go back in. And hopefully by the time I get all that done and back on there comfortable with it, I'll have brake pads and a brake cylinder. And then I'll get these. I already had bought a sleeve, so that's here. And then with these tie rod ends, I can put it all back together and have that ready to go. And actually put the steering box back on and put the tie rod ends on, and literally the entire driver's side will be complete. There she be, kind of mocked up here. I'll do some measuring, try and get them pretty close to exact length as they were originally. Ought to be a pretty good start, and figure out adjustment from there. But looks like she's going to work. Here's the new brake pads. Almost no difference in the thickness of the old pads. So the old pads were pretty close to new, it looks like, really. But, you know, whatever. I'll clean them up. Maybe even paint them and have them as the next replacement set. But yeah, I mean, they're just basically, they were pretty close to new. No big deal. Got some new ones. So on the new side, I'm missing this. I guess they call it a guide plate. And I kind of remember seeing it, but I can't find it in any of the parts. So I'm going to have to swipe this one and then order a new one for when I do this side. Okay, I got plenty of footage of me putting parts on, taking parts off. But I don't have any of the final product here because I got sick of messing with the camera. I took it apart about 4 times before I finally realized, well, what I did was I read the instructions. And if you put the adjustment cylinder on and the spring, then put the brake pads on, brake shoes on, then you can tie them down with the clips and then stretch your springs on. It goes on just fine. It's really not that hard, But if you do it in any other order than that, which I did pretty much every other possible order, it comes out wrong. Plus, what I didn't realize starting out was there's actually one spring that's just slightly thicker than the other, and that has to go on the front, and it has to go on first. So I gummed all this stuff up, scratched it all up, but whatever, it's fine. And also, and I just guessed at it and got it right, the short pad, you see, it's short, it's got this much that no pad is on, that goes on the front. So anyways, that's done, and now what I'm thinking is go ahead and take this bar off, or the steering bar, and because I got to paint it before I can connect it to the steering parts over here and put the steering box on. Yep, that's what I'm gonna have to do. So I'm gonna bust that loose and clean it up and paint it, throw it on here, and I'll finish the steering, and the front end will be done. So I got this from a buddy of mine who moved to Texas, and I didn't want to sell it with his property, so he just gave it to me, and I'm going to put that up to match this one, come off the end of it and cover this whole area, and I can pull the truck frame back here and stop letting it sit in the sun and rot. But got a little ways to go. I'm gonna probably do it for this one.